Hi everyone, Dave here at East Rosebud Fly and Tackle. Difficult to think about lake fishing here in the middle of winter, but that'll be here before you know it. I'm going to show you how to tie what I call a triple-winged leech pattern. Leeches are an extremely important food source. You think of them mostly in lakes, and that's true. They do occur mostly in lakes around vegetation. But I tell you, if you go down to the Bighorn and you turn over a rock, you're going to find all these little brown squishy buttons on the bottom of those rocks. Those are leeches, folks. So leeches are everywhere. The thing about leech is movement. They're all about movement. I'm going to be using what's called a vertical eye streamer hook, like this MFC hook. What this does is this really helps to attenuate that movement. Instead of a down eye hook that kind of cramps the movement of the fly, this ring eye hook will really allow it to move. So I'll show you how to tie this guy. Okay, so for weighting, I'm going to be using this medium-sized channel lead. The nice thing about this lead is that you can weight this asymmetrically. That way, when this fly fishes, it's going to flip over. If you wrap it with round lead wire, there's really no guarantee that that's going to happen. So I've just put this on and kind of crushed it with some pliers. Of course, you can use Zap-A-Gap. I'm just going to use thread here. I'll show you a trick, particularly if you're wrapping over round lead wire. If you try to wrap your thread through it, you'll find the thread likes to go between the wire wraps and spreads it all out. So imagine this is round lead wire. Use your tag end like this. Bring your thread around and lasso it. That way when you wrap your thread over it, it will not sink down between the wraps. That tag end of thread will keep it on top. Get that wrapped down again. A little bit of super glue on the bottom would not be a bad idea. Wrap this all the way down to the end of the hook shank. Flip this over. For the tail end, I'm going to be using some black Marabou. This is blood quill. Make sure you've got Marabou that doesn't have a tip in it, or it won't split the bend of the hook. I'm going to measure this hook shank in length. That'll be my tail, tying it in right over the hook point. When you tie a fly upside down like this, it can be difficult to get your materials to split. So I like to start right in front of the hook point, and that's not a problem. Wrap it down. Make sure you've got those butt ends tied down good. If you don't, it's not really tied down. So that will split the hook and still move. For the flash on the back, I'm going to use a few strands of black holographic Flashabou. You can use as much flash as you like, but I think a little speaks loudly. So I'm just going to use a few strands, double it over the thread. This way it will not pull out on you. Right there. And I'm going to cut it about the length of the tail. Now for the body, I'm going to be using some Arizona Diamond Dub. This is in black and red. It's fantastic material. John Romer, who owns the company, does a tremendous job of blending these colors. There is no such thing as monotone in nature. Everything is different hues, different values. So I like using products that have that blended color into it. We're simply just covering up the body. That's not what I wanted. Make sure that this is covered. I'm going to wrap this to about mid-shank. Again, this is a triple wing or a tri-winged leech. And this Marabou will be enough to not only cover, but gives it lots of movement without the tails getting trapped in each other. Okay. For the middle part, I'm going to be using a piece of Maroon or wine blood quill. Again, I'm going to make this hook shank length. That way these kind of layer over each other. We measure that, tie it down here. Several tight wraps. I really don't like using adhesives anytime I'm using Marabou because guaranteed it will wick up into that and turn it into a stone middle using some bright rainbow holo Flashabou. I really like the holo Flashabou. Gives it much more sparkle when you want sparkle. And again, grab this in the middle, fold it over the thread, slide it down, tie it down. I'm going to trim this to the end of the tail, just like I did with the previous flash, and then dub up to within about an eye length of the eye. Give me room to tie down my last wing and my last bit of flash. Trying to keep this thin. Leeches can coil up to a button. I think, as I said before, you'll find these everywhere. Ponds, lakes, also on streams. Turn over some rocks on the bighorn, and you'll see all these little brown squishy buttons underneath the rocks. Those are leeches, folks. When they swim straight out and they wiggle, but when they're on something, they can compress themselves all the way into a little button shape. The last wing is going to be, again, black Marabou. It's also going to be hook shank in length. Get rid of some more of that. We measure that. I've got Marabou everywhere. Like so. Tie that down right there. You see, when I put in my channel lead, I left room at the front and the back so I could tie in materials. Pull that back. And then finally, for the front flash, I'm just using a couple of strands of pearl Flashabou. Okay. Wrap it around the thread. Get both of them. Bring it down. Going to kind of wrap it, push it back a little bit, like so. Make a nice thread head here. These I'm going to trim to the back of the fly itself. So it'll be longer than the others. And then just a whip finish. Now this Marabou, once it's wet, will really slim down. So it won't be as big as it looks right now, but it'll have a lot of movement. You can include movement in three ways: by the material that you use, by how you use and tie in that material, or how you manipulate the fly itself. All three are important. Fish look for movement first, see if it's alive. So there you have the triple wing leech. Start thinking about lake and pond fishing this summer. Even on rivers, you need to have some leech patterns, and this is an easy one to tie. Thanks for joining in, and we'll see you next time.